Ryan with longrangeonly.com. This video we're going to talk about the brand new Zeiss SFL 12 by 50. Okay. At the launch of this video, it will be the same day as the launch of the binocular. I've only had them for a few days, so this is going to be initial thoughts. It will not be a review. Those of you that watch my stuff know that I don't put out reviews until I've had extensive time behind them, and I've only had a few hours behind these. So initial thoughts, I'll tell you what I think about them, I'll tell you where I think they fit in, and I'll tell you why you should purchase these. I'm going to go ahead and preface this with, I will try to keep the comparison close to what these are actually trying to compare them to, but there are so many different options out there, from 8 to 32s clear up onto 12 by 56s. There's actually obviously larger ones, but I don't think they fit in the discussion because those are more for throw them in your pack, treat them like a spotting scope, and they only go on a tripod. So we're going to stick between realistically, we're going to stick between the 10s and the 12s, both 42s and 50s. That's where we're going to stay. This line does have an 8 power and a 10 power as well, but we're going to mainly talk about the 12s because that's what I have on hand. Again, I just want to say I can't possibly compare these to every single option out there. Okay, what I think Zeiss is trying to do with this is bridge a gap. So you've got what I would consider to be the gold standard, and obviously people are going to have differing opinions, but the 10 by 42 is what I think of when I think of a carry binocular that you're going to take out west hunting. And they'll ride in a bino harness very well, and you can also put studs on almost all of them and use them on a tripod, which is my preferred method for long sessions of glassing. So size-wise, these are going to be very similar in size to like a Zeiss SF or HT 10 by 42 or a Swarovski EL 10 by 42 or the NL Pure 42s. They're going to be very, very similar in the height here. Obviously, the barrels are going to be bigger because these are 50 millimeter objectives versus 42s. Size is going to be very similar to what I would consider a standard 10 by 42. It's going to be significantly smaller than most 12 power optics out there. And I'm not super familiar with them because I don't like them, generally speaking. The NL Pures have gotten a little bit smaller, and there are some features for them or in them that would make it comparable to this and make it something I would consider carrying because of the changes that have been made for that optic. But generally speaking, 12 power binoculars are bigger than I want to mess with carrying in my bino harness. And I think Zeiss has fixed a lot of those issues with this binocular. All right, let's now talk about weight. The weight is going to be right in there with a typical 10 by 42. It's going to be probably on the higher side of the average, but it's very comparable to the weight of most 10 by 42s. It's going to be significantly lighter than most 12 power optics. So right in there with 10 powers, lighter than most 12 powers. Okay. This does have the field flattening technology, which I like. Some guys don't like it because they complain of a rolling ball effect. I understand the concept, but I can't see it, so I don't really know how to talk about it. I prefer field flattening technology. This does have the field flattening technology. That would be comparable to like the Zeiss SFs, the Swarovski ELs, and the Swarovski NL Pures. Now, these don't have the clarity, in my experience with the other optics, which I've used extensively. These just a little bit, but these don't seem to have the same clarity. So in perfect atmospheric conditions, you will not be able to resolve as well with these as you will like a Zeiss SF, Swarovski EL, or the NL Pures. So the clarity or the resolution is not quite there. And I will talk about the trade-off or the thing that you will gain versus others here in a second. I want to touch on a couple other things. The edge-to-edge clarity is a little bit more noticeable as far as how it falls off versus those other field flattening optics, in my opinion. So I am a big field flattening proponent. I love the edge-to-edge clarity. I love the clarity of those glasses, generally speaking. These are very close, but they're not quite there. Now, as far as light transmission, when you compare to those others, I will have all of the data on longrangeonly.com so you can sift through that. I'm not going to be staring at a computer reading to you in this initial thoughts video. I think they're at 90%. There's some optics out there that are 91. Some of them have 92, so they definitely have better light transmission. What Zeiss has done for a trade-off on that light transmission is you're getting a 12 by 50 optic in basically the same size as a 10 by 42. So you're actually going to get better low light performance with this optic. In just the few days I've spent with it, that is clear. I'm not going to tell you how many minutes or how much difference. I'm not going to try to quantify that. There are twilight specs on most of the spec sheets for the optics that you're going to be looking at, and that is on the spec sheet that I will be putting on longrangeonly.com. I will just say that these are noticeably better in low light conditions, which is ultimately the goal, I think. So we've talked about the size, we've talked about the weight. They're not quite as good as far as clarity and resolution, and they do have better low light performance. I think all of those are very easy for me to see right up front. The cost is going to be MSRP at $2,000, so you're right in there with other competitors on their 10 by 42s, most of. It's going to be significantly cheaper than the Zeiss SFs and significantly cheaper than the NL Pures. I personally would rank the NL Pures and the SFs very similar. I would give the edge to the NL Pures because they have more field of view. The resolution, the light transmission, all that stuff that you can actually use in the field, I think they're comparable. The ELs, I would say, are a little bit lower than both of those, and we're splitting hairs there. I will also say that when it comes to the field of view, which I do think is important, these are going to be on the higher end of most 12 power optics. They are going to be on the lower end of a lot of the 10 power, but that's because you're zoomed in more, so to speak, with the magnification. I don't think it's something that would change my mind one way or another, but it is for consideration. And again, the NL Pures have the best field of view in class, but these compete with the power or the magnification that they're competing with. So I'm going to reiterate all that stuff and we're going to wrap it up. This is initial thoughts. There's not a lot to dive into until I've had some more time behind it. For basically the same size as your typical 10 by 42 binocular, smaller than your typical 12 by 50 binocular, basically the same size, you're going to get almost the same resolution, almost the same clarity as those top tier glasses, but you're going to gain better low light performance, and that's where this is going to shine. So basically 10 power size package, but you're going to get better low light performance. The price is competitive with most of the other competition at $2,000. If you're looking for a new binocular for this fall, I think you need to look at the Zeiss SFL, and I think really you should consider the 12 by 50s, but the 10 by 50s are going to be another great option. I just don't have those in hand to speak of. I will have a link below in the description to a thread on longrangeonly.com. You can go over there, you can ask me any questions. I will try to work through those as I do the review. I'll also try to get some data in that thread for you. And please like the video, subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you're not a member on longrangeonly.com, it's quick, it's free, it's easy to sign up. There's a lot of great information over there and we would love to have you. We appreciate you taking the time to watch the video. Have a good day.